may just look like an ordinary street in West London, but it's a street actually, and a particular area that has an amazing association, not only as being a starring role in a major movie, but a rather infamous royal connection too. As ever, let me explain. Morning chums, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to have your company. Welcome one and all. Are you waving? I can see you. Yes, just about. A little bit windy here today, so do forgive me. Yes, it's just come from nowhere, to be honest, you know what I mean? But we've had showers, we've had a bit of thunder and lightning, and apparently we're going to get some hailstones later, but it's all fun, isn't it? Keeps you busy, you know, if nothing else. You know, as I often say here on the show though, we are walking around with so much history, and you know, it's a funny thing, isn't it? You look at things and you think, wow, all of these brand new flats and buildings all popping up, and nobody has any idea about the history behind where they're living. It's like that in any major city, isn't it? Big town, big city, there's always more to it than first meets the eye. Now this particular area here was in fact, well, incredible when you think, because not only did it have, well, formed part of a rather controversial scene in the time of the British monarchy. Well, let me just explain this. You see, way back in 1951 there was a movie, and it was a bit of a big box office success. You know, one of those early black and white films. I don't mean early, but you know, the typical B film, black and white, before the big Hollywood colour extravaganza. And this was called Operation Diplomat. A brilliant movie, let me tell you. Stars one of my favourite actors, Anton Differin, and of course a wonderful lead actor, Guy Rolfe, alongside the beautiful Patricia Dainton. It's all set in a very busy London hospital, which was here. This is, or was, Westminster Hospital, a rather splendid place to say the least. And this particular hospital, as I say, was picked, well, mainly because of the fact that they could have done with the publicity. And like hospitals that we see today on TV, where they're, you know, GPs behind closed doors, they all take money from production companies to film in there. Not many people realise that. The only people that don't get paid normally are the patients that allow themselves to be on screen for their 15 minutes of fame. This was no different. But Operation Diplomat, as I say, was a very big success for the Nettlefold Film Company and did very well at the box office. But this particular hospital also had a rather great royal connection. You see, way back in 1935, well, the infamous now Edward of Edward and Mrs. Simpson fame laid the foundation stone. Oh yes, and even that was, well, literally, you know, controversy reigned, because he had decided, and we all know the woman in question, the woman he loved, who he decided eventually to marry, well, he wanted her to come alongside him to unveil a stone. He felt this was a very good soft soapy publicity idea that the public could be introduced to. You understand how it works. Of course, sadly, that wasn't to be. Within a few years, the hospital was up and running. But then this happened. A new site was purchased at St John's Garden, Westminster, and the president of the hospital, the then Prince of Wales, briefly King Edward, laid, as I say, the foundation stone in 1935. The Queen Mary Nurses' Home, with 250 beds, and the training school, the first buildings completed, were opened by none other than Queen Mary herself in 1938 at a cost of £268,000. The new hospital building on the opposite side opened in 1939, before the outbreak of the Second World War. During the war, though, the hospital was struck by bombs twice in 1940 and by a landmine exploding nearby in 1941, but continued to function. On joining the National Health Service in 1948, it was designated to form part of Westminster Group of Hospitals, including the Gordon Hospital and the Westminster Children's Hospital, and the All Saints Hospital. In 1950, Queen Mary's Hospital in Roehampton was added to the group, which by then contained a total of over 1,090 beds. In 1960, a new nurses' home, literally round the corner here, was opened by Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and a new wing was added to the hospital in 1966, linking it with a multi-storey bridge. When Queen Mary came to open the hospital, nobody was allowed to mention the fact that the foundation stone had been laid by her son, right? And this was, it's hard to imagine, a spectacular day. The movie-tone news cameras were out in full force, the whole street was sealed off, and everybody was here literally to catch a glimpse of Queen Mary. And what's interesting is, as I said, I mentioned the movie at the start, and literally this is now truly the only record of that royal visit, because at the start of the movie you see a reception area and certain bits and pieces in there, and there are portraits, if you look very hard, of course the royal openings, the royal association. And what's interesting here is in these brand new flats, I was just talking to someone and I said, do you know anything about the history of where you are? No idea. No, they just bought the flat. No, they didn't bother looking. They're not too fussed. But even the foundation stone, right? Now, what's interesting is certain artifacts of that day, including certain pictures and stuff, are now over in the Westminster and Chelsea Hospital. But nobody actually knows where the original foundation stone has gone. Even though it was carved and signed, etc., it's just been, well, lost in the midst of time. And the reason why I highlight this is, well, two things really. We're lucky that we have those movies that people did make on location, because it gives us an insight into what it must have been like for the people working then. Everybody would have stopped and stared, and all the doctors and nurses all looking around, of course, at the royal visiting on that very special occasion. And for those people that are living here now, truly, they have simply no idea that not only were they part of a movie, a big movie star as it were, but also the fact that two royals paid a visit exactly to this location on two separate occasions. And it truly is living history. Anybody else agree? And have you checked out whether your home has got some rather, shall we say, fascinating connection? I think mine might just have damp, you know what I'm saying? Neil Sean, Westminster, London.